Alright, so today we're going to work on the Trooper by Iron Maiden, and I'm going to put the tabs up on the screen, but I would recommend that you go to the link and open up those tabs. It's a PDF file. It's got the complete tab there. So go ahead and open those up and work along with me on each part. And this video is just going to be the rhythm guitar parts only with the harmonies and all that. And then we're going to take care of the guitar solos in another video. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get right into part A. This is the intro, and we're going to start on the A string, 7th fret, and I use my 3rd finger for this one. So on the A string, 7th fret, and we're going to play that 3 times. Now on the 3rd time, you're going to do a pull off to the 5th fret. And then your same finger, the 3rd finger, comes over and grabs the low E string, 7th fret. Once you have that, then you're going to slide that to the 5th and 3rd fret and do the same pattern, 5, 5, 5, 3, 5. So we have the same note pattern, just 2 frets lower. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the 2nd and 3rd fret. So we're on the A string, 3rd fret. So we have the same pattern. This time it's just 1 fret difference instead of 2. So I'm going to use my 2nd finger for the 3rd fret of the A string and then pull off to my 1st finger on the 2nd fret. And then I'm going to reach over and grab that 3rd fret of the low E. Alright, so if we do that all together, it sounds like this. Now sometimes it's kind of hard to jump between those riffs, so that might be something you have to work on, where you sort of hit the low note and imagine you touch something hot and bounce off to the next position. So like this. So that's the general idea on how to move to that next position. All right. So once you get that part down, then we're going to move our 1st finger back to the 5th fret of the A string, and we're going to do a little like a little roll on the 5th string, a little bar where we play the A string 5th fret, and then we're going to roll the finger over to grab the D string 5th fret, and then back to the A string. So I do that rolling motion instead of barring, because I like to try to make the notes really distinct from one another. So I start with my fingertip curled, and then I flatten it, and then I curl it back up. And that's how I make that roll. And then finally, the last note is the 1st note, the 7th fret on the A string with the 3rd finger. All right, so all together, that part goes like this. Now that last note, if you notice on the tab, there's a tie there. That last note is actually the 1st note of the next repeat. So that, you know how we did the 1st note, the 7th fret on the A string, we did that 3 times in a row? Well, that note that we just landed on, that counts as the 1st one. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, like that. So that's the 1st guitar part for the intro. And then after you do that twice, there's a harmony that comes in on a 2nd guitar part. After you finish this, then you're going to jump over to the D string if you want to play the harmony parts, and use your 2nd finger on the D string 5th fret, and then pull off to the 4th fret. Now we only play that 5th fret twice, and the reason is because when we played over here, remember that last note of the riff counts as the 1st note of the next riff. So instead of playing 3 5s, we're going to do 2 5s. Like that. After you do the pull off, you slide down to the 2nd fret. And I do that without re-picking it. I just play 5, 5, pull, slide. Now once I do that, then I put my third finger on the 4th fret, and I do 4, 4, 4, pull off to the 2nd fret, pull off to the open string. So we have, well, the next part, we'll do it all together in a second. The next part is on the 2nd fret of the D string. You play 2, 2, 2, pull off to the open string, and then 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Okay, so coming out of that first riff, that's how you connect it. And then both guitar parts after each riff do this part. So whether you're playing the guitar 1 part or the harmony part, you're still going to go to that little riff at the end of each phrase. Now we get into the first part of lead guitar in this song. And this is really just like a lead pattern in the beginning. It's not a full solo, but it's great. It has some great guitar harmony. So let's check this part out. This is section B, and this is the intro lead part. So the first thing you're going to do here, the higher guitar, is you're going to play the 8th fret on the B string with the 2nd finger, and then you're going to put your 1st finger on the 7th fret and trill back and forth between 7 and 8, so rapidly hammering and pulling. So you pick the 7th fret and hammer and pull. Now there happens to be 6 of those, but for right now, let's not worry about exactly how many trills. It actually works itself out. If you just quickly hammer on and pull off, it basically ends up to be what they're doing on the recording. So we play the 8th fret, 7th fret, then you move your 1st finger to the E string, 7th fret, and then back to the 8th fret on the B string. So this sounds like this. And then back to a trill. And then you pick the 8th fret again. Then your 3rd finger comes over and grabs the 9th fret on the G string. So slowly. So just to review, we have 8, 7 with a trill, 7 on the E string, 8, 7 with a trill, and then back to 8, 9, 9. Then what we're going to do is put your 1st finger on the G string, 7th fret, 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the B string, back to your 1st finger, and then back to your 3rd finger on the 9th fret. All right, that's just the riff we did before, an octave higher. All right, so that whole lead pattern sounds like this. All right, now on to the harmony part for section B. And this part is on the D string, 9th fret, with the 3rd finger. And then you're going to trill from 7 to 9. Like that on the D string. And then on G string, 7th fret. Then back to 9th fret on the D string. Another trill. And then we have 9. Pinky on the 10th fret of the A string. Use the pinky, practice using that pinky sometimes. It's a secret weapon. And then you're going to go back 9, 10, 9, 10 on the A string to to complete that riff. So this one sounds like this. So it's the same concept as the higher part, it's just a lower harmony this time. So when I cover this song, I really like to do the first one, the higher one for the first half, and then when there's the repeat, then I like to do the lower one, just to give me a sense of harmony as I'm playing, okay? Okay, so moving on through the sheet music, and I have my tabs right here that I'm referring to as I'm doing the lesson here. So when we get to the second page, if you're looking at it, right before the verse, you'll see that there's this weird notation there with both guitars sort of, you know, on top of each other. That's the first three notes of that measure. It's just the two guitars that are in harmony together completing the riff. So you don't even have to worry about it really once you learn the main riff. All right. After you repeat that on the second time through this phrase with the harmonies, instead of doing the notes here, what they're going to do is put both guitar parts on the same, you know, riff, and both guitars are going to play power chords this time. So you're going to play frets 5 and 7, A string 5, D string 7. That's a D5 power chord. And then you have the same frets on the next string, D and G, 5th and 7th fret, and then back to D, the D5, the A string, and the D string. And then you slide that to 7. So to review that, we have 5 and 7 on the A and D strings, 5 and 7 on the D and G strings, back to 5 and 7 on the A and D strings, and then move it over to the 7th fret on that same string. The way that I do it, I use a little economy fingering where I play my first and third fingers on this chord, and then I kind of roll my first finger over, and then I use my pinky for the G, the note on the G string, and then back to the third finger. That just helps me connect it a little bit more. I feel like I can connect those chords, you know, changing fingers rather than jumping with the same fingers. You can do it either way. It's really a personal preference. Fine. But what you want to do is immediately rest, cover with both hands. So, and then we have the amazing vocals coming in for the verse there. And then we repeat that riff again. And then you stop it. Now on the next measure, the difference here is that we're going to, instead of going from up to 7, we're going to go down to 3. So all right, so that happens one time, and then we go back to the main one again. All right, so coming out of that, all right, expedited version of that. After we do that last vocals, vocals, and we go lower, vocals, vocals. Now we're going to get into the actual riffing on the verse. Now this part of the verse, when we're on the first verse, this riff, it only happens for like the second half of the verse, because the first half of the verse we kept stopping and listening to the vocals that way. On subsequent verses, we're just going to keep repeating this section that we're going to learn right now. So now once you're in on this, and the drums and the guitar chugging starts happening, essentially what we're going to do is a galloping rhythm. And it sounds like this. what we want to do with this is palm mute this down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up thing. So you're going to want to get that rhythm going in your picking. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, and so on. So getting into it is a little weird. So you have this little thing, and then you're going to hit the chord one more time, and then jump into the chugging. All right, so it sounds like this. And then a long note, another quarter note. So again. Then you do it on the 3rd fret. Like that, okay? So that's the general idea of the verse, okay? Now, when you get to the end of that part that I was just playing, you kind of keep that gallop going all the way into the end of the phrase, the measure, and then we get into the post verse. So the way that last time through sounds is like this. And you see there, it kind of felt like we sat on that chord for a little while longer. All right, and that's because we did. We kind of extended it about 2.5 more beats. So what I'm going to do right now, before we move on to the post verse, is I'm going to play the entire verse, you know, after the solo vocals parts, right? So after we do that whole thing, stopping, I'm going to play the second half of the verse and show you how it sounds. Into the post verse, all right? So we got some long vocal line coming here. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these chords on the 5th and 7th fret of the A string. We have 4 of those with upstrokes. And the reason I do them with upstrokes is it's on the upbeat, and it just helps me find where that beat is, and I can rest up like this. Like that. So we have so it goes 5 and 7 on the A string and D string, and then 7 and 9, and then you slide off of that one. All right. So coming in from the end of the galloping verse thing is. Then you jump down to a low E5 and chug the galloping rhythm on that. So do it again. And then you're back into the verse. All right, so the post verse again from here. Now, after we do all of that verse and then the post, I call it the post verse because it's not really a full-on chorus with a hook or anything there. I mean, I guess you could call it a chorus, but to me it just doesn't sound like a legit full-on chorus there. So what we're going to do now is get into where the solo is, and I would recommend you learn these the rhythm guitar here for the solo first before you try the solos. A few reasons I like to do that. One is to make sure that you learn the whole song, because sometimes people, they try the solo and they never learn a whole song. And the other is it also helps with your theory because you learn the harmonic underground of what's going on with the solo. So, okay, so now after the second post-chorus, right? So we have the... Now this is right before the guitar solo. There's 4 chords before the guitar solo. You have this again. All right? And then all we're going to do is do the galloping rhythm on these 3 chords, the 7th fret and 9th fret of the A and D string. And then we have the 5 and 7. And then the 2 and the 4 here. And then up a half step to 3 and 5. So we're going to kind of repeat those chords with the gallop 4 times on every one, like this. I forgot to mention those half notes at the end, the 3, 5, working yourself back up to the 7th fret. So we have, let me try that again here. Then 5 and 7, 2 and 4. Then we have half notes, 3, 5, 5, 7, and again. And that's the underpinning of the E minor solo. So basically you're going to do that 4 times, that riff 4 times for the solo, and the last time you go through it, instead of going back to 7 and 9, what you're going to do is jump over to the low E string 5 and 7. All right, now we're going to do the same riff in the key of E minor, or sorry, A minor this time. 5 and 7 on the low E and A string. 3 and 5. Open in 2. And then our half notes are going to be on 1 and 3. And then back to 3 and 5. Moving ourselves up to the repeat on 5 and 7. Okay, so coming out of the E minor. And so on, and you do that 4 times for the A minor solo. All right. Now, on the last time you do that, when you hit your half note on 1 and 3, instead of tracking back up to go to 3 and 5 to then do more solo, what you're going to do is play a half note on 1 and 3, and then we're just simply going to jump back up to our riff. Our power chord transition riff. And then you're right back into your intro solo. And so on, okay? And then literally everything after that is the same. It's the stuff you've already learned. It's the verse, and then it's the post-verse. And then we go back to the intro, and I have all this written on the tabs. With the same thing with the harmony. The last time through with the chords. And then you're done. So I would spend some time with the tablature. This is definitely a song that might take you longer than just this video to learn. But the key is piecing it together in those parts that I have written down on that tab file. So definitely utilize that, or go back through the video. And then the goal after this would be to turn on the recording on YouTube or iTunes or wherever you have it and play along with it. So I'd recommend maybe trying at 70% speed, 75% speed, and then work up from there and try to get to that 100%. All right, so the next video, we're going to do the guitar solos, both the E minor and the A minor guitar solos, and we'll see you then.